I'm Dr. John Torquato, and this is Preventing Diabetes. In this section of Preventing Diabetes, we're going to talk about the risk of mortality a little more, as well as diabetes costs, and try to get a definition of what diabetes really is. Then we'll discuss some of the signs and symptoms of diabetes. The risk of death rises with diabetes. In one study, researchers looked at 50,112 healthy individuals aged 35 to 55 at the beginning of their study. They followed these people for 18 years to see who passed away and who stayed alive. Then they figured out what factors were most strongly linked to mortality. Surprisingly, having diabetes was double the risk of dying during this study, and it was even more than smoking, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol. Again, diabetes was found to shorten men's lives by 12 years. It was found to shorten women's lives by 14 years. And during the years that they were alive, these individuals had a decrease in healthy years by at least 20 years. Among the 12 predictors of mortality the researchers identified, diabetes was the strongest indicator of death from all causes. Diabetes is also one of the most costly of diseases. For Medicare, it is the number one cost. Expenses for diabetes totaled over $174 billion every single year. Of this amount, $116 billion are spent directly on care, while an additional $68 billion are attributed to disability and to early death. People with diabetes face medical expenses that are more than double those of individuals without this condition. So exactly what is diabetes? Diabetes happens when the pancreas doesn't produce enough insulin, which is needed to help the body to absorb or to use sugar from the blood. This sugar comes from carbohydrates in our foods and is essential for energy. There are two main types of diabetes. There's diabetes type 1, which is also known as juvenile diabetes. This occurs when the pancreas stops making insulin. It's typically seen in young people, and although the exact cause is still unknown, some believe it might be related to an autoimmune response caused by or related to a viral infection. Then there is type 2 diabetes. That's also known as adult onset diabetes. This happens when the body becomes resistant to the insulin that is made. It's often due to being overweight or inactive or just having an unhealthy diet. The pancreas tries to compensate by making more insulin, but eventually it cannot keep up. Without enough insulin, the sugar levels begin to rise and some sugar spills into the urine. This leads to weight loss as calories are lost in the urine. However, the body still feels hungry and somewhat tired because the cells aren't getting enough energy from the sugar that's spilling in the urine. The high blood sugar levels also harm arteries, nerves, and organs, and these are associated with high insulin levels that also harm arteries, nerves, and organs. And this combination of factors causes serious health issues. Here are some of the signs and symptoms that could indicate diabetes. A person could feel unusually thirsty and need to urinate more often. This is caused by the excessive amount of sugars in the urine, which draws water from the blood and makes a person then thirsty, and yet the amount of water that needs to be evacuated and the amount of urine that's being made causes you to have to pee early. Also, having extreme hunger could be an indication of diabetes. This is caused by the hormonal imbalances related to the insulin being elevated and also the lack of nourishment coming to the cells because there is insulin resistance, which decreases the amount of glucose that can be transported to the cells. There is also an experience of unusual weight loss, again because calories dropping off in the form of carbohydrates or sugar in the urine keep from nourishing the body. Because the sugars are somewhat labile or up and down, and because the body isn't getting enough nourishment in the cells that need it, including cells of the organs and the brain, a person feels tired and often irritable. A person can get frequent infections like bladder infections because excess sugar in the urine makes a great culture media for bacteria to grow, and because there's a decrease in the ability of the body to fight infection when the sugars are high, as the blood sugars coat the white blood cells, which are the body's first immune line of defense. A person can have blurred vision because excessive sugar in the eyes and the lens of the eye cause a change in the focal point of the eye causing blurriness. Cuts and bruises may take a long time to heal because of the white blood cells that are being inactivated and the poor vasculature caused by damaged small vessels related to the high sugars and insulin levels. Also, there can be a feeling of numbness and tingling in the hands and feet. This can be caused by the high blood sugars and high insulin levels, which cause vasospasms in the small arterioles that support the sensation of the hands and the feet. Notice the section that is highlighted in yellow that states cuts and bruises are slow to heal. Remember, those things that are highlighted in yellow you will see again shortly in some kind of question at the end of this section. There are some blood tests that help to detect diabetes. After an 8-hour fast, blood glucose levels should be less than 100. Levels of 100 to 125 are actually considered prediabetes, and although not fully diabetic at that point, still carry many of the same risk factors as a full-blown diabetic. Also, anything greater than 126 after an 8 to 12-hour fast is considered diagnostically diabetes. If a person has not fasted, the blood glucose levels should be less than 140 on an average. Levels of 140 to 109 are also prediabetic, while anything greater than 200 or above indicates frank diabetes. So in conclusion, in this section we covered the prevalence of diabetes and how it increases mortality rates. We also looked at the basic cause of the disease. In the next section, we're going to look more in depth at how high blood sugars in the body harm the body and some ways to monitor the development of diabetes. So let's ask a question. Which of the following can be a sign or symptom of diabetes? A. Pink hair. B. Good attitude. C. Stinky feet. Or D. Cuts and bruises that heal slowly. Okay, write down your answers. The answer is cuts and bruises that heal slowly can be a sign or symptom of diabetes. I'm Dr. John Torquato, and this is Preventing Diabetes.